It is over.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Insiders. And we are doing an interview today, and we have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Rob Schamberger. Rob, welcome to the show. So glad that you were able to join us today.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, that's awesome, man. No, I know that you are. You are the painter of wrestlers. That's what people.
That's me.
Talk. Yeah, they call you the painter of wrestlers. Yeah. I'm going to ask you, of course, some questions about how you got into. But I guess the first is, since we are a wrestling podcast, I guess the first thing I'll ask you is, you must have been a fan growing up of wrestling in order to get into this. So. I mean, what got you started in wrestling? Where did you first see it? And I want to see if your story is similar to a lot of the other guests that we've had on the show.
I did not get into it until I was about 18. We a single mom household with one TV, and she didn't want to watch wrestling. So I didn't grow up on it. But then my mom remarried, and my stepfather was a fan back in the 60s and 70s, especially locally here in Kansas City. So Bulldog Bob Brown, Bob Geigel, Harley Race, all those guys. He would go every week and watch them. And so I was over at their place doing laundry, and my stepfather was flipping through the channels, landed on Ric Flair in would have been like 98. In WCW, and I was hooked. Rick talked me into the building, and I didn't know anything about wrestling at that time. So the next week when I was over there, I just wanted to find wrestling and landed on Raw instead, and never looked back.
Wow, that's awesome. And what a guy to get you into it, man. Ric Flair, right. One of the best of all time. That's amazing. So when did you, and now, of course, we'll look back. I'm always interested to hear about artists. I grew up as a kid enjoying lots of different kind of art. I was a comic book reader when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and always appreciated the artwork and things like that. So when did you get started in your art career?
With art, it did start with comic books. I was 7 or 8. Got my first comic. It was an Incredible Hulk, and spent the whole weekend like redrawing everything in it, and knew exactly in that moment that this is what I want to do with my life. And everyone thought it was a phase for me, but I knew like this is my thing. I figured it out, and for a long time chased comics before getting more into the fine art side of things, and from there I was trying to find a subject matter to stand out, and pro wrestling was that thing.
That's awesome. Now, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you if you kind of tried to pursue comic books, because looking at your style of art, it's very reminiscent of some of the the comics I've read and I've seen. The coloring and things like that. So I often I wondered about that. Did you ever look into trying to get into that field? I know back in the day, obviously it wasn't so simple. When you had people going, it was always you had to send things to people and mail out stuff. Now, I mean, yeah, I'm showing my age, but of course, in the days of the internet, it's a lot easier to do that kind of stuff. But did you try to get into that?
Yeah, I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 17. I self-published my first comic book and was like dealing it out of the trunk of my car like MC Hammer with his demo tapes. Nice. It was like a self-distribution around the Kansas City area. And I had some stuff here. I had like one comic published with Image, and a lot of self-published stuff, and with online comics I did work there, and it was never like quit my day job money. Right. And then I found out like a lot of my favorite comic creators still had day jobs. I just had that thing like I don't have all of the skills necessary to be the guy that draws Batman or the X-Men.
Mhm.
But I can still make art that people want to see, and had to have a long conversation with myself, which was pretty tough because my whole life had been wanting to be a comic book artist. But then I found a way that I could still make the kind of dynamic, exciting art that I wanted to, but bringing out all the best of my abilities too.
That's an excellent point, because a lot of people kind of think when you when you get into that, whether it's art, whether it's writing or anything like that, you kind of fall in love with characters. I mean, for me, when I was growing up, 6, 7 years old, it was Spider-Man. I was all about Spider-Man, and that, when you kind of dream of doing that. And I ended up getting into journalism later on in life. But when you dream about writing about things, you want to write about the things you know so well. So you pick out those topics. But like you said, you already have great people that are working on those things, and you just can't slide into that where you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to go draw Batman, or I'm going to go draw Spider-Man. So totally get that. That's a great point.
Yeah. And it was tough, right? Like kind of moving away from a childhood dream a bit.
Yeah.
But through working with WWE, eventually, like I did some work with Boom Studios with their comics, and have got a few variant covers that I've done here and there, and actually just a month or two back, Marvel.com did an interview with me about how comic books inspired me to be what I am now. So it still managed to happen, but in a way that I didn't foresee.
In a roundabout way. Well, that's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome that you got the interview with Marvel. That's really cool. So now, have you always had the talent? Were you, did you just kind of realize that you were, really, really good at this? And did you go to school for it at all, or have you just been doing it, growing up and kind of just self-taught yourself?
It's definitely a skill, and a skill is a thing that you can over time learn how to do. Like there's no magic to it. Yeah, there are some people where it comes easier to them, but it's the same way that some people are more naturally able to fix your plumbing, but other people, like really need a long time to be able to figure that stuff out, which is me. With keep me away from your pipes. But
yeah, me too.
as far as the art, like from that moment when I got that first Incredible Hulk comic, any time that I had a pencil and paper in front of me, I was drawing. And every single piece of art that any artist makes is informed by everything else they made up to that point. Everything that went right, everything that went wrong, anything that accidentally happened that you could replicate for whatever desired effect. Every piece is building on everything that came before it, and that's definitely been the case with me.
That's awesome. So I got to ask you, your first comic, Hulk, is Hulk your favorite comic book character?
With the comics, I'm more of a follower of the people that make them.
Okay.
But as far as like, if it doesn't matter who's working on it, Legion of Superheroes is my thing.
Oh my goodness!
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
The work that Brian Bendis and Ryan Sook are doing on the book right now is just tremendous.
Yes.
That's the one where regardless I'm going to be picking it up, but otherwise, it's who's working on the book that I follow.
Okay. All right. Favorite artist then for comics? You got to tell me.
Oof. That's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah.
I would say probably the artist that inspires me the most. And I don't know that they're a big influence on me per se, but just their creative journey would be Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, his Elektra work, Daredevil, New Mutants, and everything that he does.
Yep.
And just the private illustrations that he does, his constant experimentation, his fearlessness with risk taking as an artist, really speaks to me. And then there's people that are of a similar ilk, like Jim Mahfood or David Mack. The same kind of thing. Dave McKean, of course.
Yep.
Those kind of guys, like they're not just like, this is the way I draw, this is the way I make art. Like instead, it's let's try this thing out. How can I go far this way and then bring it back to my core approach? I love that, and that's the way I like to work too.
A friend of mine, actually, growing up, he owned his family owned a comic book store, and as we got older, his favorite was Sienkiewicz as well. He did get to meet him at a convention, and he said it was like one of the highlights of his life.
Bill's such a gentleman.
Yeah. He said it was incredible, and he got a piece of art from him and stuff like that. So it was really, really cool, really, really cool. All right, so you got into the artwork due to I think that's awesome. So when did you start doing the wrestling stuff? Now, we heard a little bit about what got you into wrestling, but when did you decide, you know what, I'm going to take these larger than life characters from wrestling and I'm going to start drawing these guys?
Well, it was when I made that switch to the fine art, and I was trying to there's a thing in marketing where you want to be the first at something, the best at something, or completely different. And the artwork that I was doing at the time, the subject matter was really deeply mined already. There were a lot of really well-established people doing the kind of work that I was doing at that point, so it was really hard to stand out. So I was like, well, what else am I passionate about that there's little to nothing there? And I had gone to WrestleMania 24 and saw, like, I was up in the nosebleed and knew how much I paid for my ticket, and looking at the 75,000 however many people are there, and I'm like, oh, pro wrestling, right? Like there's no one that's really doing serious fine art about pro wrestling, and the are like really specializing in it. And I was like, okay, that's it. I figured it out. And that was about 7-8 years ago. And I had the ideas around the time that Kickstarter was really getting going, and put out a project on there and raised enough money that I was able to quit my day job within a month.
Wow.
And it was really off and going, and that got me on WWE's radar. And then within about less than a year, they brought me under the umbrella and made a big commitment towards working with me.
Wow, man, that's awesome. So you're inspired by a live show? That's fantastic. And you got to go to what was it like? Because I have never been. What was it like being at a WrestleMania? I've been to live shows. I mean, growing up when I was a kid, highlight of my wrestling career is I got to see Andre the Giant when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, magnificent.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. But I've never been to a WrestleMania. So what was it like? I mean, as a wrestling fan going to that show?
Nothing in live entertainment compares to WrestleMania. And I'm not just saying that because I'm all in with WWE, but
Yep.
Nothing compares to it. If you take other people that work in live events and then take them there, they just can't comprehend the spectacle that is WrestleMania. I didn't go in person last year in New York just because I was exhausted because I work WrestleMania Axxess.
Yep.
And like that is my WrestleMania, but otherwise, like 30 through 34 I went every year, and WrestleMania 30 was really the high for me because I got to watch it from Ultimate Warrior's box.
Oh, wow.
Because I painted that Cody wore in his final appearance the next night after that. So like just that, seeing that many people all loving something together, it's such a positive energy there. And then like especially at Mania 30 when Undertaker lost and that 21-1 graphic went up, people say that like this is hyperbole when I say it, but it's true. Like if you ask anyone that was there, they'll confirm it. There's a moment when that entire crowd gasped, and it literally sucked the oxygen out of the Superdome, not the Silverdome, the Superdome.
Wow, yeah.
And like if you've ever like blown into a balloon and then sucked it back out, like that carbon dioxide feeling in your throat, that was the whole stadium.
Wow.
And like that's how passionate everyone there was about it. But then like, you know, going 2 years later to Cowboys Stadium, which was, I believe, the largest indoor gathering of people in human history.
I think you're right.
Yeah, you can't compare it to anything because it's the biggest, right?
That's correct.
Just that amount of people, and like when everyone starts cheering for the same person in the same way, like, gosh, when Stone Cold came out, just like the energy of everyone screaming and like throwing up their middle fingers and stuff. And my wife got into wrestling a little bit later, so like I'm, you know, like cussing like a storm and throwing my middle fingers up, and she's like, Rob, there's kids around, and I'm like, yeah, well, look at what those kids are doing, and they were all flipping off and, you know, giving the Stone Cold salute too. Yeah, WrestleMania, it's one of those things where for any wrestling fan at some point you need to go.
Yeah.
Oh
man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and of all the ones to be at too, like I mean, some of these historic ones. We were just talking a little bit before the show because, of course, last night with the Undertaker thing on Survivor Series, and he was talking to Stone Cold about that and talking about when he lost and the decision to have him lose that match, and you know, the fact that you were there for that. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, so
I was supposed to go.
Ahead,
me and my husband were supposed to go to WrestleMania this year. We had floor seats, four seats away from the walkway. And then COVID happened, and we were so completely bummed. And it was my first time ever going to WrestleMania. And yeah, it was yours too. He was supposed to go a few years ago and didn't get to go, and we were so bummed.
Oh, that's awful.
And so now, what do you and you're at Fan Access then for every show? Is that what you were saying? You go to Fan Access at every show?
Yeah, for WrestleMania Axxess. Starting at 30, I've been exhibiting there. Obviously not this year, there wasn't one.
Yes.
But otherwise I've been there and like gradually growing my presence there, and that's wild. Like I think it was my fourth or fourth time. And I had a big signed print that I was debuting there, and I'd been hyping it pretty hard. And I had stepped away to use the restroom right when they were opening the doors. And so I'm walking back to my exhibit, and I've got my back turned to, like, when they open the doors, people run in. It's like,
I'm sure.
What's the movie 31 Days Later?
Yeah. The zombies.
Yeah,
yes.
It's that. And someone actually shoves me to the side, and I hear them yell, "Get out of my way. I got to get to Schamberger's booth before he sells out."
And that was you.
And then I walked up and took their money. Yeah. It's wild. Like last year in New York, we had a couple friends help us out at the booth because it's so big. Like, we need a staff, and they don't follow wrestling, which I kind of wanted, you know, for the people that are helping me. But anyway, the guy comes up to me like right after. I mean, we had just, you know, lines and lines of people wanting to buy art, and a gal with her family came up and she's like, "Can you sign my t-shirt?" And it was one of my shirts, and I signed that, and my buddy pulls me aside and he's like, "So you're like a rock star." He's like, like didn't realize it at all. Like people that are outside of this bubble, they just don't understand it. And I'm like, yeah, to a certain demographic, I'm a big deal.
Oh man, that's great. So so when did you officially start working with WWE? Now I know you have a show as well on the network.
Yeah.
So when did that all come to fruition? When did you start working with them, and when did you start your show?
Let's see. It would have been the November before Mania 30 is when I officially started doing work with them. And then Mania 30 was actually my debut. Not everyone gets to say they debuted at WrestleMania, right? I'm one of them. And then the YouTube show, Canvas to Canvas, started shortly after that, within a few months. And we're now, which it's cool. Like, I make the whole show. I shoot it, direct it, edit, everything. And just submit it to them, and they put it up on YouTube, and it's now the longest running show they have, and I think we're at 340 weeks straight of new painting every week.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Jody, I'm going to let you go and ask the gentleman some questions so I don't hog the whole interview. So go ahead.
Do you who was the first WWE superstar you ever painted?
Let's see. My first full-on wrestling painting was Harley Race. I wanted, and that was like for the proof of concept for that Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. I wanted to show that I'm very serious about my love of wrestling, and so I picked, someone that's pretty universally respected for all the diehards, all the heads. I wanted to show I'm legit about this. Also, like, being based in Kansas City, and Harley grew up just north of Kansas City, and was here all the time. I wanted to speak to that as well. And second one was CM Punk, I think, and third one Bruiser Brody, who's my all-time favorite wrestler.
Oh man!
So yeah, I wanted to show the legitimacy and also like the breadth of everything that I was doing.
So you mentioned he's your favorite wrestler of all time, but is he your favorite one to paint too, or do you have another favorite that you like to paint?
It's a cop-out answer, but it's the real one. Whoever I'm working on in the moment is my favorite. But there are certain people where I can be a lot more experimental. So like someone like Asuka, Bray Wyatt, Undertaker, where their presentations are already so over the top, and I can push it even that much further. That's really exciting.
Yeah, some of your, obviously being a big Bray fan, some of your Bray art, well, all of your Bray art is absolutely fantastic. I already said right before the show started, I've got so many things on my list of yours that I need to get.
Thank you. And he's been just super supportive from day one. He actually has, it was never used on TV. You guys are getting exclusive here. I've never talked about this. He has he commissioned a painting from me of Sister Abigail, and it was so scary that his kids won't look at it. And it was supposed to be used for one of the Wyatt family vignettes, and they went in a different direction that week, and that's what happens. But he's got it up in his man cave.
Oh,
that's
man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's amazing.
I love exclusives.
Especially since the fact that we call the show that we do Abby's Window.
Yes.
Couldn't have something to do with that, yeah?
That's the name of my show.
I love the picture you did where did the idea come from to have one where the one with Bray and the puppets where you could just have people color it in?
Yeah. Last New Year's we did a family getaway, and we got one of those giant coloring posters, and everyone in the family would work on it over the course of the week. And I was like, hey, Firefly Funhouse would rock with this.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't heard from a lot of people, but it really is my intention that it's a direct collaboration between me and whoever colors it in. Like I urge people to color it in, and no one sent me a picture yet. I hope that we can get that going.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That's that's the one I want to get, because that's really interesting, because you can have, it's cool because you can have anyone create what they want, and like you said, the more you have in the family to do certain parts of it, the better it's going to be, and then getting all those people to kind of send them into you, that would be amazing.
Yeah, for the canvas to canvas for that, I invited all my siblings over and their significant others, and none of them watch wrestling except for one who's a super fan. So like he was the only one that was like coloring in with the right colors, and everyone else is just filling in blanks, right? And I taped everyone doing that, and my now sister-in-law, it was my first time meeting her, and I answered the door with an animal mask and a hatchet.
Oh man,
really set the tone for our relationship. Like, let's color.
So that begs the question, are you a horror fan?
I am, to a degree, more the cerebral stuff than like, but also love the Universal and the Hammer horror stuff. The Hammer stuff, especially, like the use of color there is really like overly saturated. But overall, yeah, I like horror, but it's not around Halloween, like, October, my wife and I will, pick out movies we haven't watched for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. It's now you're talking the Universal monsters. Is that what you mean? Like the old, the Universal stuff?
Yeah. Like Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi, Dracula. Yeah.
Yes. Creature from the Black Lagoon and all those. Yeah, they were amazing. They were amazing. So has there been anyone, I mean, Joe, have you gotten to, you just kind of do all this stuff, freehand on your own. Has anybody ever come to you, or have you ever asked any of the wrestlers to kind of have input on any of these things that you do, or, just kind of talk with them back and forth as you're doing this stuff, like anything like that?
They, my overall relationship with WWE is that I'm self-motivated. There's no approvals. There's no revisions. They like what I do, and they give me the space to do it.
Wow. Okay.
Occasionally, I'll try to ask the wrestlers, for input, and they don't have a lot. Like they they really enjoy what I do, and on occasion, it's inspired things that they've done, which is cool, and because really it's them inspiring me. My unofficial title with WWE is that I'm the artist in residence. And I really looked into how that title is used in other places, and the U.S. military actually has for a long time an official artist in residence, and they're brought in, even though there's video, there's photography of the war zones and stuff. The artist in residence is able to, using light or putting a focus on something that wouldn't get picked up, that allows them to learn things. And that's actually how PTSD was discovered. Was through the Army's artist in residence. So when I started looking at things that way, and trying to really get to the essence of the characters and of how it feels to watch the show, and to then allow people to hang that up on their wall and get that feeling every time they look at it, that's when everything really clicked for me with what I do.
Wow. That's one of the things I've often always wanted to ask, and I'll put it to you, and it may be something that might be a little too hard to answer because I guess from someone who can't, I mean, I'm lucky if I could draw a stick figure. From someone who
Me
has
too.
no
That's why I stick
talent,
to healthcare.
yeah, no talent with any of that whatsoever. Never did. I was a big tracing paper kid. When I was a kid, I got the tracing paper out and I would trace all the stuff from the books.
Sure.
But what does that feel like? Like when you, my brother-in-law does it a little bit. He dabbles in it kind of. And so, he'll sit in a room, he has a desk and he'll sit there and draw. His big thing is zombies. So loves to draw zombies. But what does it feel like when you create something? Like when you do something, you just kind of start to do it. When you're done, when you're all finished and you're sitting there looking at it, do you is it something where you say to yourself, wow, like I can't believe I just did that? Or is it just something that you're just so used to doing by now that it just comes as second nature to you?
I've been doing it so much now that things kind of turn out the way that I hope they will. But I also liken it to freeform jazz, where the way that works, for anyone that's unfamiliar, is everyone starts out together and they know where they're going to end, but they improvise in between. And that's what I do with my paintings. Like I know exactly where I'm starting out. I use reference material to make sure that it looks like the person. But then I get in there with the paint, and a lot of times the paint can be unpredictable, or I can make a decision halfway through that changes it elsewhere. But I have an overall feeling that I want for the painting. So most of the time, it's pretty matter of fact. But occasionally, where I'm really taking risks, it's abject terror until I get the final brushstroke on there, and then I'm like, "Oh, that worked." And occasionally I'll have those moments where I feel like I'll really level up, and then it's like, okay, I can do this kind of work now. And then the terror starts all over again of like, holy cow, how do I do this again?
Oh man, I love that. So of the things you've done so far, any one particular piece stand out as something that you're always going to think you're either the most proud of that you've done, or it's just a favorite piece that you have that it's always going to be that one thing that you're going to look back on and be like, you know what, this is it for me. This is just a favorite thing I've done.
Yeah, my most emotional thing I've done, and I don't know that it'll ever be topped, was for WrestleMania 31, the Hall of Fame. They started up the Warrior Award,
Yep,
and gave the inaugural one to in honor of Connor the Crusher, to his family. And when I saw that they were doing that, I had become friendly with the Mahalik family over the course of that prior year, and I reached out to WWE and said, "Hey, I would like to do a painting and surprise the family with it of Warrior and Connor together."
Oh,
and it's a painting I love anyway. But then after Steve and Jackson went out and gave that amazing speech to honor Connor, they came back and did a post interview, and I was hiding behind a curtain with it, and they brought me out and just had a really touching, genuine moment with Steve and Jackson. And that was all I was there for. It's all I cared about, for that, because it was a real thing. But then they turned the bright lights off, and standing there behind the camera are Stephanie, Triple H, and Vince.
Oh man!
And I had communicated with Triple H. He's the one that initially made the call to bring me into the company, but that was my first time meeting Steph and Vince, and I don't know that there's a better way for that to have gone.
Wow.
And I'm also glad I didn't know they were back there, because one, it would have been nerve-wracking, but two, I really was allowed to have this genuine moment with the family.
Oh man, that's amazing. That must have been awesome. That must have been awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us what you're working on. Tell us about the obviously now the website that you have that I just went on. Now did you kind of redesign that, or is it you're just doing a new thing? I know that it's got a different look to it. So is that something that you have that you're changing? Is that the future project now that you have going on?
The website, it's the kind of public face of what I've been building towards my whole career. It's all of my work available, all my prints, all my original paintings. So over 360 prints, many available for the first time. Over 200 original paintings. Might be under 200 now. I had a really good opening weekend with it. But it's making all that work available to people for the first time in one place. It's all fully licensed with WWE. And not only did I create all this work, I'm in charge of all this. I've built that relationship with WWE to where I'm now kind of a similar in a similar relationship to Mattel or Topps or 2K, what they have with WWE. I'm a licensee with them, and able to really be in charge of the direction of my own future, but continuing to do this thing that I love with this amazing company that has treated me so wonderfully, me and my wife both. So it's and it's through the support of the community. Everyone that's embraced my work for so long has built that trust and made this able to finally happen. And it's been my life's work. And the moment I pushed the button to make the site go live, it's been a life changer as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Now you said with Topps, so you do the they have the art. Your art is on some of their trading cards. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The wrestling cards. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Undisputed line. I did it last year and this year as well. And the feedback on that, especially this year, was just staggering. How much people are really connecting with those cards. It took me back, like how wonderful that was. Like a big thing that made me want to be a painter, that I always dreamed of, was back in the early 90s, the Marvel Masterpiece cards,
yes.
the ones that Joe Jusko painted. I was like, I want to do this someday, and now I am.
Oh man, I love those cards. I may still have a lot of those laying around somewhere. I can remember.
They're amazing.
Oh, they were so cool. The friend of mine who owned the comic store he had binders up at the counter, and he would sell them to kids who were just trying to finish off collections. But they were amazing.
That was the first box of cards I ever bought.
Was it really? Now, see, I was doing baseball cards back in the day, but I mean, nothing like the artwork and stuff that were on these cards. Oh, they were so awesome.
So gorgeous.
Oh man, incredible. That's really amazing that you remember getting, of course, seeing those, and then all of a sudden now your artwork is on collectible cards. That's really cool.
Yeah, that and a couple of years ago, for a whole year's worth of the Mattel Elite toys, they came with my artwork, and actually had my name on the front of the packaging. And that year, total coincidence, but it was the best-selling action figure line in the world. So yeah.
So was that just like a pinch me moment?
Yeah, it's wild. And then just a few weeks ago, the Elite Legends, the Ultimate Warrior figure, is the coat that I painted for him. And with what a emotional roller coaster all of that was, to now have it memorialized this way is sobering. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness! Wow!
Yeah. Sure.
Wow! Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to ask, since you've been so kindly doing your background work there?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. So, in terms of a wrestler that you haven't gotten to work with or do any artwork for yet. Who's a name that that you'd like to do at some point?
Well, another one of those cop-out answers, but the genuine one is everyone that I haven't yet, especially with how many fresh faces are coming up all the time, and like new looks for people. So, like Dominic Dijakovic. I didn't do one of him in NXT, and then there's this similar guy. Is that T-Bar?
Oh, we're talking about Retribution. Yeah,
I haven't painted him yet either, and I haven't done any of the Retribution guys yet. I don't think so, and that would actually no, I haven't outside of Ali, and then maybe Mia Yim. Is that her? We're officially not saying.
I think
It may be.
I've done a Mia Yim painting, but it'd be really cool to do a Reckoning one.
Yeah,
like those guys I haven't yet. And of course, the Santos Escobar, I did one of him under the mask, but I haven't painted him since he took the mask off, and I really think he's going to be a massive deal in professional wrestling for a long time. Anyone that was a fan of Lucha Underground already knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the people that I haven't yet are that's the answer.
Okay. And then my my other question for you was, excuse me, have you had someone, a wrestler, come to you and say to you, I'm trying to kind of create something myself, and I know you mentioned before that people have kind of drawn inspiration from your art, but has anyone come to you and said, can you put something together, and then they draw inspiration from that?
Yeah, kind of like almost mood boardish.
Right.
Like when Sami Callihan was briefly in NXT as Solomon Crow, he had reached out to me about doing just kind of idea-based paintings with him to try to get his mind around that character. And of course, like I've done paintings that have made it onto people's gear here and there. And then Kurt Hawkins' first solo shirt with WWE was with one of my paintings. But yeah, I think only pretty much the one time where I was kind of directly helping someone develop their character.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's really cool.
A lot of pinch me moments.
Oh, man, no kidding. Jeez, man. I mean, so I have to talk a little bit about, because I've looked at, the pictures also that you have done of Undertaker, and I mean he's on pretty much everybody's mind now today. Of course, after yesterday we found out that I mean everybody kind of knew it was coming. It was the 30-year anniversary of him being in Survivor Series, and so everybody knew what was coming. I think some people still, right down to the last minute last night, thought, you know what, no, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen.
Coming in.
I mean, being Bray fans, we were all like, the light's going to go off. It's going to turn red. And Bray's going to show up. I mean, so everybody kind of was thinking. And then, of course, seeing Vince there. And I honest to God, don't think I have ever seen Vince McMahon at a loss for words. And that had to be like, you could just see that he was struggling to talk. And then the scenes we got from that, man, I would love to see some paintings from you. The stuff that, like that stage that we got, and the mood in the background, and
if you liked all that, and if you like those mosaic pieces I've done of Asuka and Bray Wyatt,
yep,
you're gonna be real happy on Sunday.
Oh, very nice.
Maybe.
There you go.
Maybe.
Maybe
you might be getting the best thing I've ever done.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. It was. That's awesome. We love teasers in our show, don't we? Yes. man, it was just an unbelievable moment. And we did a watch along last night with our community, and we were just kind of sitting there at the end, and you just didn't really know what to say. I mean, I can't believe. And again, I'm showing my age. I was just legal drinking age when the Undertaker started wrestling, and I was like, where did the time go? But I mean, to do pieces like that, and I mean, you talked about Harley Race, Ric Flair, like people who are just they're living legends. They're living legends of the sport, and I mean, you are working on things that are going to last forever. I mean, people can, look at these things and have them on their walls and just remember these people forever and ever because of something that you did. I mean, that's gotta be an amazing feeling.
It is. I don't think the English language has the right word to describe the feeling of it. It's amazing. It's gratifying. It's humbling. It's uplifting that I've been able to find myself in this position where my life's work is making people feel good. It's wonderful.
Man, oh man. Yeah, it's just like capturing moments and things like that too. And unbelievable. Like I guess people who don't watch a lot, they kind of maybe just know it a little bit, or maybe they've known it from 10, 15 years ago and haven't watched since and stuff like that. I guess you kind of don't get that full picture of what these people meant. And, people look at them as just entertainers, but I don't know. I mean, I think they're a lot more to a lot of people. They're role models. They're larger than life characters. And, you being able to even kind of bring them to life in your own way. I mean, that's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next for you, man? Well, I got to ask you this too. I mean, how is this, what we've got going on outside is just unprecedented this year. And I mean, how has that been for you trying to work through all of this? Obviously, you're not getting to the live shows and things like that you would have been going to and been getting ready for. So how has this all changed what you do?
Not much.
Okay.
I'm not traveling, and I was going to, work backstage about once a month, with WWE. So I'm not doing that. I'm not getting the FaceTime with everyone, that I did before. I will again soon, once, things change, I'll be back to that. But as far as doing the work, I work from home. My studio's up here in my attic, and one of my good friends joked that I've been planning for social distancing for about the past 10 years.
You've been ready for it,
social
right?
person anyway. I'm more happy with a paintbrush in my hand or a comic book. It's a bummer not being able to, go to a restaurant after a hard day's work, but otherwise it's not a huge difference. And because so many people are also working from home, they're not commuting right now. And with, people either not comfortable going to restaurants or other places, or, they're not open. People have a lot more disposable income. And they're looking for something that helps them to feel good.
Yep.
And my work I'm one of the few very fortunate people to be actually doing okay during this. But I'm very mindful of all of it. I have a heart condition, so like I'm fully aware that if I catch it, I probably don't survive it.
Ugh.
So it's even more motivation to just make another painting.
Don't make the nurse cry now.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, so I mean, as an artist, and I know we talked a little bit about comic books, the artist you admire there. Has there been anything that you've seen, and this could be, like I said, this could be whether it's movies, whether it's maybe something on TV, things like that, even outside of the wrestling world, that you've just stopped and been like, wow, that is absolutely, like, for me, I mean, the artwork that I've seen, I'll go back to a comic book, from that I'll just read over and over and over again, which is The Crow, James O'Barr's work.
Yeah.
That book to me was just outstanding. The fact that it was drawn all in black and white, which, you didn't get a lot of, and you don't see it very much. And the storyline behind that. I mean, is there anything out there that you've seen recently? And it doesn't even have to be, within the last certain amount of years or so, that kind of even inspired you, and you were just like taken aback by it.
Here I am with my cop-out answers. All artwork inspires me.
Okay.
Because it's all problem solving. You have this certain space that you want to get this certain idea across using a combination of mediums and techniques and colors and composition, and looking at how other artists solve those problems. I learn something every time. But yes, there are certain people where their work just, like pushes me even further. Speaking of James O'Barr and a direct impact on my work, like when I was in my teens, of course, around the time that movie came out, I was all about it. And me and my best friend were just, crazy. Like all of our comics became dark, moody stuff of, just all of our, very intense teenage emotions that no one else had except for every other teenager. And then flash forward to a few years ago, I was at exhibiting at a comic convention, and the next booth over was James O'Barr. And over the course of the weekend, we struck up a friendship. Finally got to get his speak to him directly on how he felt about Crow Sting. Not a fan. He was watching me paint that whole time, because when I work at conventions, I like to paint through the whole thing and show people in person what I do. But by the final day, he was giving me pointers on painting, because he's obviously, we know his black and white work the most, but he's a very accomplished painter. He painted all those covers for that book.
Yes, he did.
And so then he was giving me like in-depth pointers right over my shoulder, and it's stuff that I apply to everything I do now. So that's really tremendous.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you're at conventions and things like that, and I don't know if it would be the same at Axxess, but do you do commission work? Like if someone comes up to you and asks you to draw, or do you just, is it strictly, will you do your own things for them, like right there and like do it for, or is just strictly where you're just selling the art you already did?
Yeah, the latter. Bring in the work, and then I work on one big painting. It's a combination of, I don't enjoy doing the quick sketches. I don't feel like I do good work that way. You do those things, and from the business side of things, which no one ever wants to hear about, but it's it's what pays my bills, is you want to get towards where you have passive income. Passive income, for those that don't know, is getting paid for something you've already done.
Yep.
So if I work on like one big nice painting at a convention, I can sell that painting, make money on that, but then I can also sell the prints. I can work with WWE to get T-shirts made. Whatever things I haven't even thought of, like some digital apps use my art here and there. Every one of those, I'm getting paid on something that I'm not currently having to work for. And that, like I own all my work. WWE, when they use it, they actually license it from me. Amazing arrangement. And but with this website, SchambergerLabs.com, that I just launched, that's why I held on to all my work. Like the ownership of the rights to it is so that now with this, I can, earn off of it without having to be constantly making new art. I'm still constantly making new art, but I get to spend a little bit longer on it and make something a little more meaningful.
Man, that's great. That's awesome. Jody, did you have anything else?
So are you still doing commission pieces for fans? Because you and I need to chat.
No, WWE keeps me so busy that I'm just not able to. But real quick, Jody, you said you're a nurse?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Just right now.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a nurse in a geriatric psychiatric facility.
Oh, well, extra help. Extra helpful. Thank you.
Busy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, really, really appreciate you coming on. I really loved hearing about, because again, from a guy who, I've been a geek since I was 7 years old with comics and the artwork from them. And then, growing up through all of that stuff, it was awesome to hear you talk about all of that from a perspective from the actual artist side of it. And I can't wait to see what you've got coming up. The website is amazing. Obviously, before we let you go, please tell all of our listeners where they can find you on social media, and obviously also about the website as well.
Sure thing. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at Rob Schamberger, ROBSCHAMBERGER, and not using Facebook at this time. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Central, so noon Eastern, on WWE's YouTube channel, there's Canvas to Canvas, and WWE Shop and WWE Auction. You can get artwork there. And of course, just launching this week is SchambergerLabs.com. And it's, the central hub for everything. Over 360 prints, over 200 original paintings. You can turn your whole house into a Royal Rumble.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm sure you've won over at least 3 customers here.
Thank you, guys.
I told you I got like 5 different braid pieces sitting in the shopping cart on that website right now.
Thank you.
I'm just waiting for payday.
Oh man. Well, listen. I wish you all the luck in the world. I know you don't need it. It's awesome. I love what you're doing. Love the work. And can't wait to see what you've got coming up. Obviously, that little teaser you gave us. Now I'm even more excited to know what that's going to be. Can't wait to see that one. But yes, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Really, really appreciate you coming on. I know our community is going to love hearing about it as well. And listen, stay safe. Of course, during all these crazy times we have. So
same to you guys. Thank you so much for giving me time to talk about this. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, good luck with everything. Can't wait to see what you've got in store.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, guys, that has been another interview from the Insiders. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we will all talk to you soon.